Hey guys, welcome to another video of nzpocketguide.com. Today we're going to be talking about the border closure in New Zealand. So as you know, due to the current event, we have closed the border of the country of New Zealand to all foreign travelers. And this will have big impact on your trip to New Zealand as well as your visa application. So we're going to give you the lowdown here and we're going to go through all the official information that we currently have. And at the end of the video, we're also going to give you our opinion on how long the borders of New Zealand are going to be closed. So stay tuned.
Alright guys, so what we're going to do in this video is that we're actually going to give you the official information off the Immigration New Zealand website. This is definitely the best place to come to in terms of visas and, the travel restrictions regarding coming to New Zealand, because this is the official government website. And we know that there are a lot of misinformation out there right now about traveling to New Zealand. So when we have any doubt about anything, we usually come to the Immigration New Zealand website. So that's what we're going to be going through in this video mainly, but toward the end of the video, as Robin says, we're going to give you our opinion, which will make it really obvious when that's going to be, on when and how long we think that the travel restrictions are going to be in place for, because that information hasn't actually come out yet. Alright, so shall we get started with the Immigration New Zealand website information?
Alright, so the main statement of Immigration New Zealand at the moment, and I'm reading straight from the website, is that the starting point for consideration is that the New Zealand border is closed to all but critical travel, and that protecting public health in New Zealand is paramount. So that means that almost everybody is excluded from the travel conditions to come to New Zealand. So the New Zealand border is currently closed to almost all travelers to help stop the spread of COVID-19. The travel ban applies to all arrival in New Zealand, whether it is by air, by sea, and this also includes super yachts. So if you guys are super rich out there and you think you can sail to New Zealand and come and hide from this whole craziness, sadly you cannot. So New Zealand citizens and residents returning to New Zealand may travel to New Zealand and do not need any formal exemption. So you don't need any formal paperwork. If you're a resident or a citizen of New Zealand, you still can come to New Zealand. And there are limited amount of exception for travelers who should seek approval from Immigration New Zealand before traveling, and we will go through some of those exemptions right now. So but first up, let's get started with who may travel to New Zealand without first seeking approval. So no approval needed, who can come?
So that includes New Zealand citizens, permanent residents and residents with valid travel conditions, excluding people granted a resident visa outside New Zealand and who are travelling to New Zealand on that resident visa for the first time, may travel to and enter New Zealand. They do not need to use the exceptions process below, which we'll explain later in the video. While partner, dependent child or legal guardian travelling on the same flight as a New Zealand citizen or resident does not need to seek approval in advance, Immigration New Zealand recommends they use the process below to provide certainty of travel to New Zealand rather than risk being denied at the border.
So there are some people that can travel to New Zealand, but they need to seek approval beforehand. So this is what Immigration New Zealand says about that. So there are a small number of additional limited exceptions to the ban on traveling to and entering New Zealand. This applies to people who already hold a temporary New Zealand visa as well as to people who don't have a New Zealand visa. The following people should seek approval from Immigration New Zealand using the limited exception process. So that is partner, dependent children aged 24 and under, and legal guardians of New Zealand citizens and residents. It also includes Australian citizens and permanent residents who normally live in New Zealand. And it also includes people of the following criteria, on the following critical purposes in New Zealand: essential health workers, other essential workers which are specifically agreed to by the New Zealand government, Samoan and Tongan citizens making essential travel, New Zealand-based partners and dependent children aged 19 and under of a work or student visa holder who is in New Zealand, and critical humanitarian travel. So people seeking to travel to New Zealand because they meet one of these limited conditions should first request consideration using the online exemption request form below, and we're going to be actually giving you a link in the description of this video. If the travel is considered likely to be justified despite the travel ban, then they may be asked to provide further information so a special visa or variation of their current visa can be granted. The starting point for consideration is that the New Zealand border is closed for all but critical travel and that protecting public health in New Zealand is paramount. Now we're going to cover the critical purpose for travelling in New Zealand.
Yeah, so for the critical purposes for travelling in New Zealand, one of the critical purposes is essential health workers. A healthcare worker is a current or new start date March to June 2020 employee who holds a key position working in a district health board, the New Zealand Blood Service, hospice or palliative care, a primary care practice such as urgent care or medical or healthcare centre, and aged residential care, respite or continuing care facility, and this includes care in a person's home or community facility. And eligible positions are, and there's a big long list of all the eligible positions. So that's medical doctors, nurses, midwives, psychologists, physiotherapists, psychiatrists, technical and support staff working in theatre, laboratory, radiology, cardiology, blood service, whew, this is a lot, nuclear medicine, oncology, hematology, pathology, hyperbaric medicine, mortuary, and research staff. Caregivers and support workers within the following sectors, so that's aged care, including rest homes, child health, palliative and hospice care, mental health and addiction, forensic health, disability support, home and community support care. And for this critical purpose for travel, you need to also have the evidence of qualifications, and registration may be required. And partners and dependent children may also be included in the request. You must be able to prove you are genuine and in a stable relationship with your partner.
Whew, it looks like
there was
this
a
one
lot
was a
of
hard one.
ologies to get through.
Alright, so there are also some other essential workers that can be granted access to New Zealand, and that will be kind of on a one-on-one basis, and this will be assessed by the New Zealand government. Also, the citizens of Tonga and Samoa can submit a request for exemption if they are making essential travel to New Zealand, and if family members applying for an exemption must have their own critical purpose for traveling in New Zealand. And this brings us to talking about traveling to and from the Pacific Islands.
Okay, so New Zealand citizens from Tokelau, Cook Islands and Niue travelling to New Zealand must isolate themselves for 14 days upon arrival. Travellers must also obey COVID-19 alert level 4 restrictions, so stay in your accommodation basically. And travellers must meet the entry requirements of the country they are travelling to. Check flight availability and entry requirements before starting your journey. Health officers are screening travellers from New Zealand to Pacific Islands. Airlines will not allow any passengers with COVID-19 symptoms to board.
Alright, so there is also an exception for partner and dependent children of New Zealand work, student or visitor visa holders. So this exemption is only for partner and dependent children which are already holding a work, student or visitor visa and normally live in New Zealand. The partner or parents must also be in New Zealand. That means that you can actually stay in the country if you were just here visiting your parents and everything. And yeah, there is also some humanitarian exception.
Yeah, so for the humanitarian exceptions, an immigration officer may make a humanitarian exception to the travel ban in extremely limited cases, taking into account the following factors: connection to New Zealand, the applicant's primary place of residence and their current location, how long they have been away from New Zealand, Other options available to the applicants, the impact of not giving an exception, and whether the Ministry of Health or District Health Board supports the provision of any medical treatment that may be required.
Now, if you are a partner, if you are partners and dependent children, and if you are applying as a partner or dependent children of a New Zealand citizen or current visa holder, or if you are being included in your partner's request, you must be able to demonstrate your relationship. For partners, this includes demonstrating that you are in a genuine and stable relationship. That is a general kind of visa stuff. It already is kind of the case with other New Zealand applications. People applying as partner of a New Zealand citizen or resident will be assessed against the evidence that they are able to provide in their circumstances. They will not be granted a partnership-based visa if they apply again in New Zealand, and if they apply again in New Zealand, they will have their partnership assessed again in more detail. But there are also some exceptions for people who do not hold a current visa to travel to New Zealand.
Yeah, so people who don't hold a current visa to travel to New Zealand, with the exception of Australian citizens and permanent residents, must meet health and character requirements for temporary entry, be a bona fide applicant, meet the funds or sponsorship requirements for visitors, meet onward travel requirements, and have a critical purpose for travelling to New Zealand, unless they are a partner, dependent child or legal guardian of a New Zealand citizen or resident and travelling with them to New Zealand, or an Australian citizen or permanent resident.
So there is also exception for people which already hold a visa to New Zealand. If you already hold a visa to New Zealand, you must have a critical purpose for traveling to New Zealand. And you also still need to meet the requirement of the visa you hold. People who have applied for a visa but it has not been granted will either have their substantive visa assessed and granted, or granted as a special visitor visa depending on their circumstances. If you want to submit a request to travel to New Zealand, there is a link again in the description of this video below, but you do have to understand that Immigration New Zealand is working with very limited amount of staff, and then your request will be taking a little bit longer than the usual, so be aware of that. And also you need to take in consideration the availability of flight coming to New Zealand, so this usually will be going hand in hand with your application, so be aware that you need to be able to apply. If you apply for a visa, you need to be able to make your way to New Zealand.
Yeah, so for foreign nationals that are currently in New Zealand, Immigration New Zealand says that foreign nationals in New Zealand can now travel domestically in order to reach Christchurch or Auckland Airport to take international flights. They can drive, take Ubers, taxis or public transport, or take domestic flights from Auckland, Wellington, Nelson, Christchurch or Dunedin airports in order to connect with a commercial or chartered international flight. They must meet strict health criteria before they travel. The criteria and other information is available at the COVID-19 website. Robin will also put a link in the description to the official COVID-19 website that the New Zealand government has going at the moment. Foreign nationals should contact their consulate or embassy for advice and support. And that's in regarding to leaving New Zealand if you're already in New Zealand as a foreign national. And also note that airlines will not allow unwell passengers to board. Travellers must contact their airlines and other travel providers for the most up-to-date information about the flight availability, transit and entry eligibility for areas affected by border measures.
Here you go. So there is a lot of information right here, but we're going to be putting a link to all this information in writing in the description of this video. Now, we understand that this is not ideal, and there are a lot of people that have submitted application for their working holiday visa or for their visitors visa or their work visa or their student visas coming to New Zealand, and everything is currently on hold. Now, a lot of people are emailing us, messaging us on YouTube, Facebook and all that good thing, and asking us when will this restriction be lifted. And the truth is we don't know just yet, but, and this is the part of the video when we're going to be speculating a little bit. The information that we're going to be giving from now on are all our understanding of what is happening, and none of it has been actually officially released. But the New Zealand Treasury has released some forecasting for the New Zealand economy, and in their forecasting they include some kind of border closure for New Zealand for up to 12 months. And the Minister of Health of New Zealand was on TV on the 20th of this month, so that's about 5 days ago, and he said that it was unlikely that the border will reopen in any way in the next 3 months from now. So as we're recording this video at the end of April, that's April, May, June, so that will be by the end of June, early July at the earliest. And from our understanding, we actually do think that this will be taking quite a lot of time. We don't think that the border will be reopened fully until about 12 months, and maybe for like the New Zealand summer, some countries will be allowed. So the New Zealand summer will be December, January, February. So that will be maybe 4 selected countries, and upon pretty strict screening in our opinion. But that's just, obviously we hope that we're wrong on that, but that's what we are thinking. Now you can still transit through New Zealand under very strict condition again if you are going somewhere else, and yeah, there is a link again in the description below. And if you guys have questions about transiting, we may just do another video about that, because that's a topic that comes up often as well. But that is so far all the information that we have for traveling in New Zealand as of the 25th of April 2020. We are doing live session every single week. It's at 8 a.m. Sunday New Zealand time. There is a board right here if you want to grab it, Laura.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are somewhere around the world, it is on Saturday at 9 p.m. in the UK and 10 p.m. in France. It's 4 p.m. EST on Saturday in the USA and 1 p.m. PST. In India is 1:30 a.m. and in Australia it's 6 a.m. on the Sunday. So yeah, so it's 8 a.m. Sunday New Zealand time every single week. So we're still here to help you plan your trip to New Zealand, or you can plan far ahead.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you do have any questions, make sure to put them in the comment of this video and we'll pick them up and do a video about it. Thank you for watching.
See you later.
Bye bye.